501 Cast. Information you need from experts we trust.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the 501 Cast. Today we are talking with three of our esteemed leaders that we work with, Keith Roberts, Melissa Thompson, and Jeremy Lehman. Our staff identified these three professionals as leaders that we work with on a consistent basis. We respect them all. And in thinking about why we love them so much, we realized that each of them has got a level of spiritual calmness about them that we think brings a lot to their leadership style. So we wanted to talk today with them about spirituality and leadership, how the two go together, how one enhances the other, and then get a little bit of input from them on what their journey has been like, the tools that they tap into on a daily basis. And then, as Melissa would say it, kind of spirituality for dummies. Like, how does the average person go from maybe not even really having a spiritual background to embracing it, maybe as an amateur, you might call it at first, and really becoming someone that taps into this on a daily basis. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our first topic. And I believe I had asked that Keith might lead us in a quick discussion on everyday practices.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I am a big believer in habits. I think that, inspiration is motivational, but habits get things done, right? So having a morning routine and an evening routine is truly life-changing. My morning routine is a little bit extreme. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. I do creative writing for an hour after drinking a 16-ounce glass of warm lemon water with a tablespoon of Himalayan sea salt. Then I do 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of reading, and about 10 minutes of journaling, followed by another hour of creative writing. Then I do yoga, I do a cold shower in the Wim Hof method, and then a healthy breakfast. So I've got a pretty robust morning routine. But by the time most people get out of bed, I've actually accomplished what I used to do in an entire day. So I work much, much smarter and not harder. And I'm actually using neuroscience to hack my brain, or the people that I coach and recommend hacking their brain. The reason I choose 4 a.m. isn't because I'm a masochist. It's because between 4 and 5 a.m., our brain waves are between alpha and theta state naturally. So you're in between that meditative and flow state that's so hard to accomplish. So it's a little bit of biohacking in my morning routine to get me that way. And then I'm a big believer in structure and discipline. So one of my favorite sayings is, character is the ability to carry out a good resolution after the excitement of the moment has passed. Everybody makes New Year's resolutions. Nobody keeps them. I saw a speaker once that said, if knowledge equaled results, everybody would have a six-pack. And then he pulled up his, abs and he was ripped. And we all know the things that are going to accomplish the goals that we have. It's, do we have the discipline to do them? And then the reason that I'm a huge advocate for gratitude and mindfulness is the same thing. It's hacking our neuroscience. There's 4 neurochemicals that really control our happiness. Well, there's many, but cortisol, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin are the 4 main chemicals that I try to have a balance of. Oxytocin is our love drug, serotonin is happiness, dopamine is the winning, and then cortisol is really the bad thing. That's our fight or flight response that unfortunately in today's society is triggered by simple things like traffic or being late for a meeting or having to reinstall GoToMeeting before you start something. We have this same rush of adrenaline, our pupils dilate, and the things that used to help us flee from animals that would eat us now impact our body in a really unhealthy way. So by doing things like showing gratitude, having a gratitude practice in the morning and the evening, by showing people your love, even if it's not saying, "Hey, Kristen, I love you. It's great to see you. We're working partners. That might be a little weird, or coworkers," but just by having that emotion, like, "Oh, Kristen, haven't seen you in so long," and in my mind thinking about the love that I have for you and the adoration, actually gives me a bit of serotonin. And so that's triggering that neurochemistry in my mind. And the beautiful thing about starting this is the first step is the hardest. Once you do it, everything else is easier. It's just like that great commencement speech on making your bed. It's that small win. You can start to build momentum on it. So there's a reason why I have that really sadistic 4.5-hour routine in the morning. And it's because it makes the rest of my day, the rest of my week, and the rest of my life exceptional.
Great, thanks, Keith. In regard to like daily habits, gratitude, mindfulness, and discipline, Keith, I know that you are, you identify as Buddhist, and I would like to hear, like Melissa and Jeremy, what routines or discipline or everyday practices do you employ spiritually?
I think Jeremy.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Melissa.
I muted myself so we didn't have background noise. Go ahead, Melissa.
You know, it's nothing as rigid as what Keith has. For mine, I think it's always just trying to be in the moment, being present where I am, so that whoever I'm with, they're getting all of my attention. And I think that for me, in what I do, the work I do, and then with my family, I think that helps me to feel the gratitude, understand all the blessings that we have around us. If it's as simple as, you know, taking my dog for a walk and noticing the sunset or the colors of the leaves, or just taking those breaks to really recognize all of the beauty that surrounds us, the people that surround us. And I think, like he said, you know, recognizing the feelings that you have for the people that make you feel good. And you do, even without saying it, you do feel good about recognizing and feeling grateful in the moment. And then a lot of his prayer too. A lot of I feel like what we put out into the atmosphere in way of prayer or thoughts helps to either bring positivity or negativity into our life. So just making sure that, you know, we're focused in prayer for others and for good results and good outcomes. And hopefully that just kind of comes back to us. And I found that I think with my faith, that's what's helped me kind of keep solid in my faith through some really difficult times that I've been through in my life and situations, and helped me to stay focused in the moment on whatever's the most important thing, whether it's the mission of our organization, the health of a relationship, and not get caught up in maybe the drama of a moment, but to be able to kind of really maintain that long-term strategic look at what is the goal ultimately here. And if I get caught up in this little momentary thing, how is that going to impact the health of that relationship or organization or situation that I'm in?
Yeah, Jeremy, I have been around you where you have been very open about your Christian faith, and knowing that about you, has that always been part of your life? And what about everyday practices in your spiritual life as it ties to your leadership abilities?
Yeah, so real quick to reference back to what Keith said and what Melissa touched on as well, that gratitude, you know, being thankful for what we have, that's a biblical teaching, to not covet and to be content. And that's huge. Like the whole world needs that.
Amen.
It's so easy, especially in the social media realm, to see everyone puts up their greatest pictures, right? I just shared how I took my boys fishing on Lake Michigan. You know, that doesn't reflect all the crummy parts of my week that I had, right? That was the highlight, you know? Right. So it's easy to look at that and be like, wow, look at what everyone else is doing. But look inward, look how you are blessed. We all have tremendous things to be thankful for. So that's huge. But yeah, I have, being a believer in God or a Christian has not been always part of my life. I was 18 years old and living my best life, I thought, and realized that I was a sinner in need of a Savior, and gave my life to Christ, and He changed my life, 100%. You know, I was living for myself and doing what I wanted to do, and now I live for Him. And you know, like Keith said, try to show my love, right? That's what we all need to do. We need to show more love, and I try to do that. One of the I guess I'll touch on that a little bit. the quote I shared with you was basically the golden rule. But love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Again, we could all learn from that.
Yeah.
If we all truly showed love, we jump to conclusions way too quick in business, in our everyday life, and in politics and so forth. And right away, we want to hate someone because of their religious affiliation or their political affiliation. And it's like, that's crazy talk. Get to know them. And there's something you could love about them. You probably will love them as a person. You just might not agree with how they think. I do have daily habits for sure in the morning, like Keith. I mean, that's huge for me. Just like Keith said, man, when you can start your day right, it just changes your whole day, changes your whole week. I get up at 5 o'clock typically and spend time reading the Bible. I typically read through the Bible in a year. This year I'm doing it chronologically. First time I've ever done that. So I spend about 30 minutes reading, and I spend, probably 10 minutes praying, and just eat breakfast. I maybe text some friends, some encouraging thoughts from my morning meditation, think about what I read, whatever. I'm at the office by 6:30, so I don't have a 4-hour routine like Keith, but I am trying to get my business to a point. I would like to have a longer routine in the morning, because it seems like it helps me tremendously, and would like to stay home and maybe have breakfast with the family before I rush off to work, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, thank you. I'll say just a minute about my own routine is going to change dramatically. I've been warming up to use the Oak Journal method. Keith, our whole staff is launching in on August 1st, and I'm not going to be a 4 a.m. person, but I'm already a 5 a.m. And instead of hopping up and staggering for coffee, I've been doing like calisthenics, right? Getting ready to start the 90-day Oak Journal. So I've been trying to take my time a little more, and really excited to kind of officially have a start point with an accountability partner to change my morning routine. And with that, I would just say to you, Melissa and Jeremy, you're welcome to join in with us on the 90-day journey of habits and practices if you want to. But I wanted to include a quote here that Keith had provided that he refers to. Would you like to speak briefly to this quote, Keith, and what it means to you in your everyday life and spiritual practice and leadership?
Sorry, I did the same thing. Absolutely. So this is a quote on enlightenment. It's so close we overlook it. It seems so good to be true, so we can't believe it. It's so profound we can't fathom it. It's not outside ourselves, so we can't obtain it anew. There's so many parallels between, my belief structure in Buddhism and Catholicism, Christianity, Hindu, Muslim, etc. And it's all really inside us. And the thing that I think escapes all of us is what really matters. So many people seek. There's the 4 truths of Buddhism. The first is that life is suffering. The second is life is suffering because of our desires. The third is life is suffering because of the path we take. And the fourth is, letting all of that go. And it's really just letting everything go and not having material or, other desires, and realizing that time and relationships is our only true measure of wealth.
So generally, life is suffering.
Life is suffering until you realize you don't need that new car or that boat or anything else. As soon as you realize, there's another saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Nothing changes. But if you look at the Dalai Lama, that man is giddy all of the time. He's the happiest person you'll ever see. And the same with his good friend Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu. And they have a totally different belief structure, but I think they're both enlightened souls, and they don't need anything else other than that friendship.
Yeah, interesting. So spirituality in crisis, I sort of randomly picked different people in our group here to address different topics. And Melissa, I thought of you in this topic because in your profession, working in a healthcare hospitality home, you see a lot of families in crisis. And I don't want this to be like a COVID politics race session, but there's plenty of crisis to be had just in 2020 all by itself. But even before any of that was true, you were functioning as a leader, seeing crisis, like real crisis, the important stuff like dying family members on a daily basis. And so I kind of picked you to talk about this topic, how you go about tapping into your spirituality in times of crisis, whether that's personal or at work, and maybe touch on how you've seen exceptional cases of others doing that as well.
Yeah, we do. We see a lot here. We see families coming in who have maybe something that they have time to plan for. They've gotten a big diagnosis, maybe cancer or leukemia, something like that. And they have a little bit of time to plan and ahead before they're coming in. And then we have others who a patient's had a stroke or a heart attack or a car accident on the interstate. And their life is just, well, in either case, their life's turned upside down in a matter of minutes. I have a lot of personal experience with some of these situations. Our first son we lost when he was 4 days old to a chromosome disorder. My sister passed when she was 51 of a massive heart attack, very unexpectedly, and she was 600 miles away. I understand what these people are going through, and I understand how quickly. And then my son, a year and a half ago with leukemia, going from being healthy to 10 days later being so sick with leukemia. And it just helps me being, I don't know, I feel like these experiences in my life really help me connect with the families that we work with and what they're facing, what was meaningful to me and how to help them as best we can on this side of it. There's not a whole lot we can do about the medical situation and what's going on in the hospital, but we can provide a really soft place for them to land at the end of each day, just to help collect and compose themselves, be a shoulder to lean on, an ear to talk to. So that's important. And then I think for me, going through all of these situations, my faith, I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't have faith that we're all part of something big, and these things aren't being done to me. This is happening in my life, but I've never felt those feelings like, why me, why us, why are we going through this? I know my son, when he was diagnosed, did one time say, why me? I said, totally waiting for you to say that, Matthew. I understand, but why not you? We're all here, every one of us. It's not something that was personal. It's one of those things that happens in life. And really right now, what we have to concentrate on is how we get through this. And it's holding each other up and having faith that our doctors are here to take care of us, and we're holding each other up. We're going to pray about this. We're going to put the good things out in the world. And everything was really, it's not helpful to me to have any kind of negative or victim type mentality. I think it really totally gives up any sense of control. We don't have control over a lot of things, but how we respond to all of these things that are happening in our lives definitely is where we can take control. And we can decide to go in a positive way. Losing our first son, devastating. There's a lot of women who can't come back from the loss of an infant. You have all these hopes and dreams for 9 months, and really literally, in days that was taken away. But I really chose to focus on, he had something that generally he would have been stillborn. I was so blessed that we got to hold him. I felt so thankful that we got to hold him as he passed and got to be there with him and had those 4 days with him when normally we wouldn't have. So I guess it's what you focus on for me. And my faith is always focusing on, what am I learning from this? What is this bringing to my life? What can I add to the situation, or what can I take away from it? And then just believing that this is all for the good, and I feel like in that moment too, my husband is Black, so we're an interracial couple. My son, my kids are interracial. Race is a big thing that's going on right now, and racial tensions. And my mom wasn't as keen on our relationship. But my mom coming, and who's the two most important people in my life are my husband and my mom, and then my kids. And when my mom came and saw my husband and I walk this walk together, through the loss of our son, and she saw how caring he was to me, that totally turned her around too. And I felt like in that moment too, that positivity that came out of us having our little boy and him passing brought the two most important people in my life together in a way that they would never have been before, probably. And that really cemented the relationships between them. So really focusing on all those positive things helped us to move forward, and then to go on and try again and have kids and being able to enjoy them and not worry so much about what their outcome was going to be. Just having faith it was going to be okay.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. I didn't know that about you, and I appreciate your vulnerability, just sharing that, especially as we're recording this, right? These things can get kind of heavy or emotional. So would you all agree that there are times like when things get dark, it's tempting to abandon faith if things get dark enough? And I've actually had that experience myself a couple decades ago. But would anyone else like to share a story related to loss? I just got a note here that we could get cut off. I must be logged into the wrong Zoom, because we can resume. I can restart us, but let's just keep going. It might be faking us out. Does anyone else want to share? I put up a verse here that Jeremy shared, a piece of scripture. Anything around managing crisis with spirituality?
I mean, I think amazing, Melissa, the way that you had that experience, and it brought those two people together. Again, thank you for sharing. That's really powerful. I think that we are meant to learn something from everything that happens in life. Again, being Buddhist, I believe in reincarnation, and that I like to think that the more challenging lives we're experiencing, the closer we are to reaching enlightenment, because we're choosing these harder lessons to learn. I think it's really tragic when somebody doesn't learn those lessons and they're forced to repeat that pain. But I do truly believe that everything happens for a reason. There was one story I heard once that someone asked the Buddha, how many lives must I live before I reach enlightenment? And his response was all of them, meaning every human life that's ever existed on this planet. Everyone from the richest king to the most poor and disabled soul. So that resonated with me, all of them.
Jeremy, what does the scripture mean to you?
So this was just a scripture that basically I try to live my life by. You wanted to, just the topic in general of spirituality in your life. This dictates how I live my life. This dictates how I treat other people, whether it's my wife or my children or my coworkers, employees, or my customers. If I didn't have this, if I didn't have my belief in God, I would still be the same person that I was when I was 18, right? I was a very, very self-serving person. We all fight this, right? We all fight doing what's right. We're all somewhat selfish people. And, I just got to remind myself of that, that it's not about me.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So, lessons learned. I thought it might be interesting to just cover if there was a time that I was thinking, a time that you maybe leaned on faith or prayer or meditation and discovered that it saved the day, or maybe didn't the way you expected. Anybody have something there to share?
Jeremy, if you want to go ahead. If not, I have one if you want.
Go ahead, Keith. I'll go after you. That's fine.
I just think, and similar to what Melissa said, we put things out in the quantum and we attract those to you. And opportunity is when luck meets preparedness. But whether it's prayer or meditation or any practice where you're putting out with a abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, but you have to be willing to do the work. So when trying to think of lesson, lesson learned would be, you can't just wish upon a star that great things are going to happen and you're going to win that lottery ticket. You also have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work yourself, and really take any rock out of your backpack that are not yours to carry up the mountain, and then get on your path.
Yeah.
That was a very esoteric, random, not personal lesson, but more about belief structure.
Thanks, Keith. Jeremy?
I guess I don't know if I was reading through our email here, so I was thinking of more of a time when I tapped into spiritual practice and it seemed to have paid off. I don't know if that's a lesson learned or not. But I'll just share it if it's all right. It might fit into lessons learned. It does. It fits into my belief that God is in control and that I can trust him with everything in my life. And I have to continually relearn that lesson, because when I have trials or crises in my life, whether that's small, like business is crazy busy right now and I need more employees. Where am I going to get employees? I pray about it. God sends me employees. I have the craziest experiences where people come in here and randomly see a sign or somehow hear about it and reach out, and it's been amazing. But two times in my life where I've tapped into my spiritual faith in God, and it's been huge for me, is when I got married and the last house I bought. I literally prayed. I literally trusted God with my wife and prayed that God would tell me who to marry. I did not date my wife. God told me who to marry. And he told me who she was. I knew her. We talked. She has a strong faith in God. I said, look, God's telling me that we're supposed to be married. You pray about it. And then we had a short time where we dated, but we were basically engaged and we got married. And it's phenomenal. Like I didn't know when I was 23 years old what I needed in a wife the rest of my life, right? God knew that. And she's the most amazing mom to my 6 children that I could ever imagine. If I would have simply married her for her looks, like you want to when you're 23 years old, right? That changes once you have 6 kids. She's still beautiful though, don't get me wrong.
This is on tape.
He's not kidding.
You can cut that out.
But I'll have to make the next story short. It could be a long story, but essentially my wife and I were going to add on to our house, and we had been looking to buy one for a while, and nothing was coming available. And so we liked where we were going to add on, but I kept hitting some pretty big roadblocks with my drawings. And to make a long story short, I came home from one of our last planning meetings before we were supposed to start the house, and it was very clear to me that this was not working out, and maybe this was not what God wanted us to do. And I told my wife, let's fast and pray this weekend, because I don't think this is what we're supposed to do. And we did. And Monday morning I come to work, and a guy shows up in my office, and he sits down across from me at my desk, and he says, do you want to buy my house? And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm serious. Maybe. And anyway, long story short, he lived by a lake, and like 2 months previous to this, I had a dream that my wife and I were looking at buying this house with big windows all the way around it, looking out over this lake.
Wow.
So I just asked him, I said, I got to know, do you live by a lake? Yeah. Do you have big windows looking out over the lake? He said, yeah, every window in the house, you can see water on both sides of the house. And I was like, all right. I drove right out. I texted my wife. I said, start praying. I think we got a house. And I drove right out there and looked at it, and we ended up buying it. Very, very private setting, very beautiful setting. Should have went on the market to the highest bidder. It wasn't even on the market. He came to me. I bought the house. So anyway, just amazing. Like it's awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay.
So the other thing we wanted to talk about today is blending our spirituality, our leadership skills, and making that work in a culture of inclusiveness, acceptance, embracing people of all different faiths, and what we do, what we don't do, and where those boundaries are. And if anyone's got something to share, whether it's a rule of thumb, company policy, or just a personal belief, happy to hear your input here.
Yeah, I would say that it is something to be cautious of, because somebody's belief, or you're trying to insert your ideology into their life, can be very polarizing and potentially dangerous. But I think that you can do things as far as taking the best practices and community out of your spiritual practice. At my agency, when we were larger, we practiced transcendental meditation. It was optional. I led a session every morning before work started, and we had attendance from the most, different believed people that adopted that part of it. Transcendental meditation, nothing to do with Buddhism. It wasn't a direct correlation. We're going to do, Zen Buddhist meditation. And then one of our core values was perpetual karma. Everybody knew, the company's called Zen because originally it was just me and I'm Buddhist that did the work. But we still had that same philosophy of what is karma, right? We do the right thing, not because we're going to get rewarded, because it's the right thing to do. And I think a lot of these apply to anybody's faith, right? Whether it's, Buddha is within you, or Christ is within you, or whatever your belief structure is. It's doing it in a way that's respectful of your team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in what we do, both working with our team members and the guests that are coming in and the volunteers that come in as well, I think for me, it's always the actions. It's not about preaching or telling them what my beliefs are, but how I treat them. And through treating them in a loving way, I think that speaks a lot to the faith that I have and my spirituality and where I stand. And hopefully, a lot of times conversations start and they'll bring up issues around their faith that then open up the opportunity to talk a little bit more deeper about that once they open up that side of it. But generally, I try not to talk too much about what my scriptural beliefs or that type of thing are, more so how I interact with them, how I welcome them, the hospitality that we show, that shows the love of them and they feel welcome no matter what our backgrounds are.
Yeah. Jeremy, any rule of thumb there from your corner?
Yeah. We have some practices kind of like Keith that we do that are somewhat Christian, but we don't. No one's required to participate. Really, the only one we do as a company, kind of like Keith was saying, is every Monday morning after our team meeting, before we start the week, we have a group prayer for protection and so forth. And yeah, no one's obligated to participate. That's me. That's something I've implemented because of my belief. But yeah, it is important that, especially in the world we live in, we need to learn that we can be open about what we believe. I'm passionate about what I believe, or I wouldn't believe it. So I can even come across to people. You can be turned off if you feel like I'm pushing it on you. No, this is just my belief. Right. This is what drives me. Just like Keith has his morning meditations and morning routines that's different than mine, but it helps him. And he can share his beliefs with me and certainly not offend me, because I can respect that. So I think it is important that we shouldn't hide. We shouldn't hide from people, right? But we have to respect that. And certainly in business, you have to be careful. You can make these things available for people, but it's certainly nothing you would require of them. I'm quite certain that's not legal, and I'm not sure what the point of that would be, anyways. But yeah.
Yeah, I will just share a really quick story before we close. That early on, I think I was in my late 20s, I was offered a job at a vet clinic, but part of the deal was you had to join the Church of Scientology. And I don't even know what that was at the time, but it was required. I mean, these are the binders. You will get your own set. If this isn't okay with you, you can't have this job. And at the time, I had no idea that was illegal, but you know, these days I don't know that anybody would go there. I just want to take a minute to thank you all so much for, this is a very deep topic, and you know, the people will say, well, don't talk religion or politics. And so of course that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. And the three of you were just great partners in this exercise. I really appreciate it. Again, Melissa with Healthcare Hospitality Network, and Keith with Zen Man, a marketing agency we've worked with for a long time, and Jeremy with Seal Tight, board president for HPIP. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.